Hello again, everyone. Ambassador Terry with another of the Daily Six series live with my co-host, author John Chapelier, and our guest this time is a pretty fabulous guy. A lot about action in his life. Rob Pardi. Rob, I'm so glad you can make it.
It's great to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. And you know, the Daily Six, the last of the series, is about action, and your life and your story, your book, and everything reflects that very thing. And this discussion, I think, is really going to be fabulous for people out there. So, author John Chapelier, what do you think about action, sir?
Well, it's, I think, a lot of times if I'm doing a keynote, I don't have enough time. I just talk about willingness because you got to have willingness to start and you got to have action to make something actually change. Everything else is just this wonderful concept of planning and, self-adulation about all the things I'm planning on doing. It was the thing that made it really stand out was when I originally went to Putnam to get the book published. One of the things they had me do was write a position of uniqueness. What makes this different than la 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 la, a bunch of other books. And primarily, I said that action was the issue that I seemed to feel was left out of so many other books. I mean, you look at Covey's books and all the other things, and it's a wonderful concept. So they're absolutely wonderful concepts. There's just no place in the book that says, okay, now that you've read all my wonderful concepts, what are you actually going to do with them? And to me, I know that seemed sort of intuitive, but but I find so many people that just want to own a book, or they just want to read the concepts, or they want to just read the index, the kind of thing, versus do something with the information that you have. And I think that's where I came up with the idea of a gift of devastation, which is the idea that something absolutely horrific and traumatic can happen in your life that will, if you're willing to move forward through it, you will come out the other end dramatically changed. But you have to move forward through it. It's like it may be really uncomfortable here, but there is a point at which you will eventually come out and be, I don't know if you want to use the word reborn, that seems to be used a lot these days, but you will be changed mentally, physically, and spiritually. And that all happens because you actually do something. You don't think about it too much. You don't plan on it too much. You just actually show up and do it. And I think Rob's made some big decisions in his life that completely changed his life, at least from the book I read. And it's all based on the fact that, you just keep moving through it, and eventually you'll see the value of the action that you took yesterday, maybe in a month, maybe in 6 months, but it's sometimes it's not today, kind of thing. So what do you think, Rob?
Well, John, I'm so with you, first of all, about like books, right? And one of the things that I talk about all the time is if you really go back in philosophy, they never said read 1,000 books. They said, read something and put it into action, like make
Right.
it part of your life, right?
Right.
And so these concepts that we could study forever, we can't really study life. We have to live life. We have to
Right.
create it. We have to experience it. And that all requires action. So I'm so with you on that one. With the idea of action, and sometimes when people hear the word, at least what I've seen with my clients as well, is they think action is really big. And yeah, it is true. Okay, after my wife passed away, I picked up and I moved to Italy. That really was a big action. That's
Yeah.
not the definition of action.
Right.
Action really, if you think about it, is a commitment to move forward towards something.
Right.
And therefore, it could be small one day, it could be big the next day. But what you want to do is you want to keep moving. You don't want to stagnate. You want to pursue whatever it is, that dream, that idea, that wish, that goal. And what I say all the time is, right, because my whole thing is about possibilities. And we're blessed.
Mm.
One, we are possibility. It's just a miracle that we're all here, right? The
Right.
second thing is that there are possibilities all around us. Maybe there are barriers or obstacles, or we have certain criteria that we can only work within in this moment. But if we don't take action, those possibilities are just a wish.
Right.
So I'm so with you on that. I think we've gotten so used to, in a way, the whole idea of instant gratification. You know, if Amazon doesn't deliver in 15 minutes 2 years from now, no one's going to want to use Amazon. It's just, it's one of those things that it just keeps accelerating. But yet, the patience in crafting your life is what creates something beautiful. You can't rush through painting a masterpiece or sculpting just something like, you know, David or whatever the case is, or building a mosaic. You need the patience. And that's where I think people get very frustrated with action, because they take something, they do something, and there's, well, where's my reward? And you were talking about that, you know, you're moving towards something. It's not just immediate. Sometimes you won't see it. But the gift you're giving yourself by taking action is self-determination. It is putting a stake in the ground that you are important, what you want is important. And so it's, you know, it's a mix of things where, you know, grit and resilience and all those other things. But I'm so in alignment with you of the process of action is building towards something.
Right. Yeah, and the point that you made earlier about big and small, I mean, this is one of the points I make is that there are some things that, you know, that have happened that I've noticed over my life, where, you know, getting computers for the kids in Washington, D.C. It's my hometown, and that was a huge project. I mean, it took like 10 large companies putting a lot of money each in to buy these computers. But when I do a keynote, it's funny, I did one the other day, and I said, and there's also small ones. You know, when you step in an elevator, you can just wait a minute instead of just pushing closed door. Everybody pushes the closed door button really fast. So you might want to look outside and see take a little action, look outside, see if anybody's running for the elevator, and wait. Take that kind of an action. So you don't have to buy 100 computers for 100 kids. You can buy a little bit of time for somebody trying to make the elevator. And the funny thing was, after that, when we took a break after that keynote, everybody is standing by the elevators, pushing the buttons, trying to help people. Come on, get on the elevator. So, you know, everybody, I think, wants to do things. And sometimes they just don't think, well, this can't make any difference to anybody. You know, this is an insignificant act. And the thing that I have found is even just using somebody's name tag, like a waitress or a person behind the counter, and saying, "Hi, Rita, how are you today?" It's, you know, they light up because no one else has done it. And so it doesn't have to be a gigantic amount of money or even time. It can be something as simple as just paying attention. And to me, that's life in action, is paying attention. You know, making sure, like you said, opportunities exist everywhere. I say good is in charge. And if we allow good to be in charge, we will find what was intended for us to find. But we have to be looking for it. You know, I remember a situation where I literally saw this guy. I was walking down the street in Washington, and I was just sort of starting this process of stop being quite so much of an egocentric and start being sort of concentric. And for me, I watched this guy come out of a building with an iPad, and he was looking at the iPad. Then he's right across the street from a beautiful park, and birds are singing and all sorts of stuff. He never looked up from the iPad. He turned left, he walked up to the next building and walked back in again. And I thought, yeah, buddy, you know, you're going to just, you know, everything that's out here isn't going to be here the next time you come. You're going to have missed that. And all you had to do was take 2 seconds, look up, go, and then walk back into the building. It doesn't take a lot. You know, it can take 10 seconds before a phone call or before a meeting or anything else, and just sort of reflect how you'd like to be considered in this meeting, how you'd like to be represented by your mental and emotional state. And taking little actions like that make a huge difference in the way in which we relate to people, places, and situations. So, you know, I love the idea of action because, like you said, I mean, that's the way it's always been. It's been a process of learn and act, not learn and learn and learn and learn and then start planning and then plan and plan.
Exactly, right? The plan, the plan, the plan, the plan.
Right.
You sort of never get out of the cycle, which of course then you could point to the fact that, there is fear of failure, and if I
Sure.
act and if it doesn't work out, what happens, and all those other things. But like what you were just talking about in terms of whether it's, acknowledging Rita because she's wearing the name tag or something like that,
Right.
and
Sure.
people think, well, maybe, well, does that action really have any value, or does it make any difference?
Ask
The
Rita.
thing is, yeah, ask Rita, first of all. Second, we create ripple effects by action or inaction.
Hmm.
Regardless of what's happening, it's the intention behind why we do things. So if you're acknowledging Rita because there is community around you, there is a person that is actually working, and you want to acknowledge that working, whatever the case is, those ripple effects, we don't know what they will be. But we
Right.
know that if we are not taking action, like you said, with sort of the iPad in a way, the less action we take, the smaller the ripple effects and the smaller
Mhm.
our world becomes. Like for
Right.
me, I think of action as an acronym, and I'm a big acronym person. And the A actually stands for awareness.
Okay.
You need to have awareness before you take action,
Right.
because you need to know where you're going, who you are, the impact you want to make, the story you want to live. And the more you know these things, the more even the smallest action has a lot of intention behind it,
Right.
because it's tied to an overall theme. The reason I like possibility in action, where that all came up from, is that's just me. That's the way I live my life. There's a whole thing behind that, but that is my personal philosophy.
Hmm.
And therefore, the actions I take, big or small, all tie to the fact that that's what I want to leave behind. My
Hmm.
legacy at the end of the day are the actions I have taken, are the example I have left in the world, are the ripple effects. Now, yes,
Right.
if I had, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars like Bill Gates, and I could say, okay, when I die, I'm going to leave, 150 billion or whatever he said he's going to leave. Yeah, okay. But there's just as much value as smiling to Rita,
Right.
or holding the elevator door for someone. We have no idea what's happening in their life. Maybe they're
Right.
late for an interview. Whatever the case is, you held that door. It gave them that one extra second that they felt like they
Right.
needed. We
Right.
don't know.
No.
So
No, we don't. I mean, Terry, you want to jump in here? You're usually the guy saying that to me, but
I
I know that this is an
love
important
it.
component for you.
Just like always, I am loving this. This all falls into presence. Presence is the point where manifestation becomes action, and presence is very simple. Okay, it takes away the anxiety of the past, and it takes away the angst of the future, and all you have is right now. And right now is the present, because soon as you take away those, whatever it is that you're in deep thought about or dealing with, things start to come to light, manifest, coming to light. And both of you have said it so eloquently today, like the simplicity of looking up over a tablet and taking a breath, or holding an elevator door for someone, because it's contagious. When you do something simple, they are more likely to do something simple for someone else, and then you have the ripple effect. And the rock making the ripple in the pond, when you throw it in there, doesn't care what the ripples are. They just get bigger, and they just keep going, and they just keep going, and more people are around that. I'm often quoted as, give love to yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. If you don't love yourself and you give love, it's false love, and false love will come back to you. However, you love yourself and you give love to John. I give love to Rob, and they give love to 2 or 3 people, and one of those 2 or 3 people knows me. So now Rob and John have given me love, and 2 or 3 other people, and all of a sudden, all this stuff is coming back at you from directions you don't have any idea about. And it's all about being present and allow the universe to just do its thing. The universe responds to what you think and where you're going. And it's up to you to think and what you want to do with what's happening. You know, the worst kinds of things like Rob's early life issues with the loss of his wife. I've had some losses in my life as well. And it's the next step that takes you to where you want to go. It's not standing where you are, because even the earth doesn't stand where it is. We're always moving. So we are moving entities. And by understanding that and being okay with it, things around us change, and we turn into different people. We end up with a different track line of our journey. And it's usually like both of you, it's usually an amazing thing, because of the things that you're doing out there for people right now after, like John says, the gift of devastation is profound. And this conversation is spot on with our theme for today, and that's talking about action, you know. So yeah, John.
Oh, thanks, Terry. Sorry. It was funny that we were talking about ripples and ponds and rocks, because I don't know if you guys do this, but I buy domain names. As soon as I can think of something, I end up buying a domain name. And one of the domain names I have is called The Rock in the Pond, because it's a article I wrote about the value of being attentive, because we are the rocks in our ponds. You know, it's us dropping ourselves into a meeting, or dropping ourselves into the family dinner, or dropping ourselves into whatever it might be. The ripples go out, but they go out just as strongly for negative emotion as they do for positive emotion.
Yes.
So, you know, we have influence, you know, and it can be positive or negative depending on what we bring to the meeting, depending on the power of us dropping into life. And we are the rocks in our ponds. And so, if we are attentive to that, these are those little things you were talking about earlier, Rob, and you also, Terry, about realizing that we have to notice that what we can do and what we can bring to every situation in our lives. Are we going to say hi? Or are we going to say nothing? Are we going to roll our eyes at somebody's story? Or are we going to lean in and listen attentively? I mean, it really is interesting, because I remember back when our son was very young, and I was running a large company, and I didn't have any time for this little 2-year-old or 3-year-old running around. It's just like, you know, could you please leave me alone? Come back when you're 30 or something, because I'm really busy right now. You know, but Susan would look at me in her wise way, and she would say, he needs about 5 minutes of your time. That's all he really wants. Then he'll lose interest and he'll go do something else. You got 5 minutes? And so that would cause me to put things in perspective, stop all the really important things I was doing, and go play with my son for 5 minutes. And playing with Dayton is one of these huge stories about this gift of devastation and being able to move through and come out the other side in a positive way. But if I had been ignoring him all those other times, he wouldn't have cared whether we played together, because it would not be an experience that he had ever had and wanted it again. And so that's where I would like the next time I run into the lady at the grocery store, for her to go, I remember you, you know, kind of thing. Or the person walking down the street, like you said, Terry, somebody that you talked to who talked to somebody else. I mean, a person posted something about my book the other day, and I thought, you know, you forget about the fact that the simple things that we do really can make a difference in people's lives. And I ran some very large companies, but when I was running those companies, nobody ever sent me a note that said, what you did today changed my life. But I get those from people reading books or reading articles or reading posts. So it is much more important for me today to be able to touch somebody's emotional or spirit than it is for me to enhance my pocketbook. It's just interesting. I just want to help create a positive change, and positive change, again, cycling back, requires action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're winding down on our conversation today, and I don't want to stop. This is fabulous, you know, because it's so pertinent to what's happening out there right now. You know, action isn't about spinning around and round and round. That's movement. Action is about doing something, whatever that doing something is. Opening the door for somebody, certainly those are trivial in one person's eyes, but it changes the life of another person. And given freely without mechanics, you know, like I've got to open so many doors for people today, or I'm going to be a bad boy. It has nothing to do with that. It's about your heart grabbing that handle on that door and open it up for somebody else. And I just want to get some final thoughts from our fabulous guest, Rob Pardi. Rob, this has been fabulous, and thank you so much for being here. Do you have some final thoughts for today?
Well, first of all, thanks to the both of you, because this has just been absolutely fantastic. I think we could talk forever. I just wanted to circle back to what John was talking about the 5 minutes with his son and so forth. And one of the things about action is we are taking action all the time, but it's a lot of it is habitual. And so it really is bringing that awareness back to it. And like you said, you don't want to open the door, you have to open it 10 times today to achieve something or something like that. You want to know the reasons behind the actions you're taking. So it always goes back in a way to self-narrative or how you want to show up. So I would just say that, I think what we're talking about here is the intentional action, right? Like we realize our actions are having that ripple effect. So what actions do we want to take? And is that ripple effect to better our lives, improve our lives, expand our lives, elevate our lived experience, but know the intention behind with what we're doing.
Right.
Fabulous. John?
I don't know that I can enhance this much more. It's the idea is that we do bring an intention and a behavior to what we do, and for people who are listening to this here, two things: hold an elevator door today and see if that makes a difference. I mean, you'd be amazed what silly little things like that will do, both for the person that you waited for, and funny, when things close, the door closes, you'll feel better about having done it. Or the next time you go through a door, look back and see if anybody's right behind you, instead of letting the door close. And just look back, look around, be aware of your situation. And again, doesn't make any difference if you're in a, like Rob said, if you're in a situation sort of a Bill Gates or one of these guys, great, go buy 1 million computers for underprivileged kids. I don't know, but I guarantee you, personal connection and personal awareness of the needs of others and reacting to those needs and treating the needs of others as important as if they were my own will make all the difference in the world. But nothing will matter if you don't take some action.
Absolutely. What a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed our conversation with our great guest, Rob Pardi, today. And this series as a whole, this is number 6 of our series. And it has been a pleasure to be the host, along with author John Chapelier, on this journey of the gift of devastation and the daily 6. Rob, thanks again for coming. And ladies and